published, 042 EDT, the 25th of April 2018, updated, 1009 EDT, the 25th of April 2018. Meghan Markle has taken part in her first official service of remembrance as she joined her fiancé Prince Harry at an Anzac Day dawn service. Organised by the New Zealand and Australian High Commissions, the couple arrived at Wellington Arch in central London for the service of commemoration. The American passed a cultural milestone when she and Harry were welcomed by Te Watini, a member of the London Maori Club, with a traditional hongi, the soft pressing of noses and the sharing of each other's breath. Ms. Watini, a New Zealander living in London, said about Meghan, "She was amazing. I'm not sure if it's her first time at a Maori ceremony, but she did very, very well. It was really lovely to meet her and share the breath of life and share our culture with her and Harry. Prince Harry previously met Ms. Watini through her association with the London Maori Club, which was invited to New Zealand House to meet with the royal in 2014 as part of preparations for the Invictus Games. Scroll down for video. The American passed a cultural milestone when she and Harry were welcomed by Te Watini from Ngāti Ranana with a traditional hongi. Prince Harry was also given a hongi to Te Watini from Ngāti Ranana, which involves the soft pressing of noses and the sharing of each other's breath. Ms. Watini, shown left, a New Zealander living in London, said Meghan was amazing, adding that she took to the Maori ceremonies very well. Prince Harry previously met Ms. Watini, pictured middle, through her association with the London Maori Club, which was invited to New Zealand House to meet with the royal in 2014. Prince Harry poses with Ngāti Ranana Maori dancers, including Ms. Watini, front row, middle, as he meets the New Zealand Invictus team at New Zealand House. A smiling Prince Harry seems happy to be joined by his fiancée Meghan Markle, who is attending her first official memorial service this morning. Prince Harry and his fiancée Meghan Markle walk with New Zealand's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Jerry Makepery, after commemorations at Hyde Park Corner. Prince Harry lays a wreath at the Australian War Memorial during an Anzac Day dawn service at Hyde Park Corner in London. Kensington Palace said the Duke of Cambridge helped to join Harry and Meghan at the afternoon Anzac Day service. Meghan impressed delegates with her first official appearance at a memorial service, as she prepares to be formally welcomed into the royal family next month. Meghan Markle took part in her first official service of remembrance as she joined her fiancé, Prince Harry, at an Anzac Day dawn service. Prince Harry and his fiancée Meghan Markle exchange a glance during the service, which represents the Americans' first ever remembrance event. The pair, who are set to marry next month, both wore long coats this morning for the moving dawn service at Wellington Arch as the sun broke over the London skyline. Harry, a former army officer who served for 10 years in the forces, laid his floral wreath at one of a group of metal crosses near Wellington Arch in central London. A handwritten note from the prince, attached to a wreath of red roses, read, "For all those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in pursuit of our freedom. Thank you, Harry." Ms. Markle may not yet be a member of the royal family, but she has attended a large number of official events in the run-up to her royal wedding on May 19. There were other Maori elements during the dawn service, including a haka performed at the end, a longer version of the one displayed by the famous New Zealand rugby team the All Blacks before matches. Ms. Watini said about Meghan, "She was amazing. I'm not sure if it's her first time at a Maori ceremony, but she did very, very well. It was really lovely to meet her and share the breath of life and share our culture with her and Harry." Anzac Day has been commemorated in London since the first anniversary of the Anzac landings at Gallipoli in 1916, when King George V attended a service at Westminster Abbey and more than 2,000 Australian and New Zealand troops marched through the streets. Harry was joined by fiancée Meghan Markle for the early morning event at the New Zealand War Memorial, where thousands had gathered to pay their respects. Harry and Meghan are due to tie the knot in St George's Chapel at Windsor Castle in Berkshire in only a few days' time in May. Anzac Day has been commemorated in central London since the first anniversary of the Anzac landings at Gallipoli in 1916. The US actress, who wore a grey coat and large brimmed hat, passed a cultural milestone when she and Harry were welcomed by Te Atariti Wartini from Ngati Ranana, the London Maori club, with a traditional hongi. Meghan wrapped up against the morning chill for the service, wearing a thick grey coat, a black hat, matched with a black top. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were joined by hundreds of others in commemorating all Australians and New Zealanders who served and died in all wars and conflicts since then. The services have become an important moment to recognise the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps who died during the landings. Anzac Day is commemorated as a public holiday in both countries, with memorial ceremonies held at various locations. The dawn service at Hyde Park Corner lasted 45 minutes. The service began at the New Zealand Memorial and included readings, the last post, silence, reveille and national anthems, before the couple moved to the granite Australian Memorial. Meghan Markle signs her name in a remembrance book for the first time, before she becomes a bona fide royal next month as the sun broke over the London skyline. Harry, a former army officer who served for 10 years in the forces, laid his floral wreath at one of a group of metal crosses near Wellington Arch in central London. The service began at the New Zealand Memorial and included readings, the last post, silence, reveille and national anthems, before the couple moved to the granite Australian Memorial. At the conclusion of the main service in front of the New Zealand War Memorial, Harry and Meghan walked over to pay their respects to the Australian troops just the other side of Wellington Arch. Ms. Markle may not yet be a member of the royal family, but she has attended a large number of official events in the run-up to her royal wedding on May 19. Meghan Markle looks on as she attends her first ever official service of remembrance this morning as part of Anzac Day. Meghan Markle stands and joins her hands as part of proceedings as the dawn service continues. First thing this morning in central London, Harry and Meghan were joined by the New Zealand and Australian High Commissioners and both signed a book of remembrance. Later in the morning at the parade service at the Senate AF, Prince Harry will lay a wreath on behalf of Her Majesty the Queen. Between 300 and 400 participants will take part in the parade, including members of veterans associations, service and ex-service personnel and their families. Following this parade, he and Meghan will be joined by new Father Prince William at the service of commemoration and thanksgiving at Westminster Abbey. This will be a traditional church service, incorporating an act of remembrance, the last post and Kemal Ataturk's words from Anzac Cove read by the Turkish ambassador to the UK. The actress braved the brisk spring morning in April to pay her respects to the Australian and New Zealand troops who died during the landings at Gallipoli in 1916. Prince Harry and his fiancée Meghan Markle attend the dawn service at Wellington Arch to commemorate Anzac Day. Meghan, 36, looked suitably sombre in a grey coat, black hat and heels. With her hair loose as she attended the service this morning, Meghan wears a poppy as she commemorates Anzac Day, which has been acknowledged in London since the first anniversary of the Anzac landings at Gallipoli in 1916. The Australian War Memorial was dedicated in 2003 to the 102,000 Australian dead of the First and Second World Wars. Harry took the lead, although glanced several times behind him to make sure his fiancée was following. At the conclusion of the main service in front of the New Zealand War Memorial, Harry and Meghan walked over to pay their respects to the Australian troops just the other side of Wellington Arch. The Australian War Memorial was dedicated in 2003 to the 102,000 Australian dead of the First and Second World Wars. Harry took the lead, although glanced several times behind him to make sure his fiancée was following. The couple first went to sign a book of commemoration together, believed to the first time Miss Markle has done so. She then watched from the side as Harry laid a beautiful wreath at the base of the granite memorial with a handwritten card which read, "In loving memory of those who made the ultimate sacrifice and the many whose lives were changed forever." He bowed and then waited for Miss Markle to join him before they thanked their hosts and walked off to their waiting car for the short drive back to Kensington Palace. The service began at the New Zealand Memorial and included readings, the last post, silence, reveille and national anthems. Before the couple moved to the granite Australian Memorial, Harry and Meghan were joined by the New Zealand and Australian High Commissioners and both signed a book of remembrance. The couple sang hymns including Abide With Me before Prince Harry lay wreaths at both the New Zealand and Australian memorials. Prince Harry studies his order of service as Meghan Markle sits by his side, during what is her first ever outing for the official remembrance service. Thousands of women finally take the lead at Anzac Day marches in Australia as commemoration services take place across the world. Australians gathered at pre-dawn services on Wednesday to commemorate the moment when Australian and New Zealand Army Corps troops waded ashore at the Gallipoli Peninsula in Turkey 103 years ago in their first major battle of World War I. Because extremists have targeted annual Anzac Day ceremonies in the past, concrete barriers were placed around the service in downtown Sydney to protect those who gathered at Martin Place. Among those at the head of the parade was 100-year-old Molly Cummings, who is honouring her many family members who have served for Australia. This year, for the first time, women's service groups marched consecutively as part of the By the Left campaign, which aims to raise the profile of female veterans. Prince Charles delivers a speech during the wreath-laying ceremonies at the Australian National Memorial in Villers-Bretonneux, northern France. People take part in a smoking ceremony during the Diggers' March in Sydney, Australia. The annual march started 15 years ago, to recognise and celebrate Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who served in the Australian Armed Forces. Australian Minister for Foreign Affairs, Julie Bishop, plays a wreath at the Redfern Park World War Memorial in Sydney, Australia this year. For the first time, women's service groups will march consecutively as part of the By the Left campaign. Thousands of female veterans are leading Anzac Day parades around Australia to honour those who have served and to raise the profile of women in the military. Pictured is a former servicewoman waving during the parade in Sydney. Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, his French counterpart Edouard Philippe and the heir to the British throne, Prince Charles, will mark Anzac Day in France with a service that also commemorates the 100th anniversary of Australian troops taking the town of Villers-Bretonneux from the Germans. Villers-Bretonneux is now home to the main Australian memorial of the Western Front. At Villers-Bretonneux, Turnbull and Philippe on Tuesday unveiled a memorial plaque at the new Sir John Monash Centre Museum, which is named after the Australian general responsible for taking the town. Turnbull and his wife, Lucy, also visited the grave of her great-uncle Roger Hughes, who was killed by a German shell in 1916, 5 days after arriving on the Western Front as a young military doctor. Turnbull said in an Anzac Day message that Australians remember veterans of every generation who risked their lives for their country. Prince Charles was among those to attend Anzac Day services, which honours the men of the Australian-New Zealand Army Corps who died in World War I at the 1915 Battle for Gallipoli, Turkey. Men dressed as World War I soldiers take part in the parade in Brisbane. Anzac Day is a national day of remembrance to commemorate the service and sacrifice of Australian servicemen and women. A woman carries a framed photograph of what is assumed to be a family member, as thousands gathered to commemorate one of Australia's most important annual events. A girl looks round as she watches the Anzac Day march in Sydney on Wednesday morning. As is customary every year, musicians from the Hills District Pipe Band march during the Anzac Day march in Sydney, one of several cities across the world to mark the event. Australians and New Zealanders arrive at Memorial after attending the traditional Anzac Dawn service at Anzac Cove in Canakkale, Turkey. We best honour the Anzacs of 1918 and the First World War by supporting today's servicemen and women, Turnbull said on social media. Home Affairs Minister Peter Dutton represents the Australian government at a service at Anzac Cove at Gallipoli, where the Australian and New Zealand troops landed under British command in an ill-fated attempt to take the Ottoman Empire out of the war. More than 44,000 Allied soldiers were killed at Gallipoli. Turkish casualties were estimated at 250,000. At the Australian War Memorial in the capital Canberra, an estimated crowd of 38,000 to 10% of the city's population gathered in the cool autumn darkness for the dawn service, which began with a lone soldier playing a didgeridoo. The attendance at this year's dawn service shows the enduring connection so many people have to Anzac Day, Memorial Director Brendan Nelson said in a statement. Armed forces past and present are being commemorated around the country for their service. Pictured is the Shrine of Remembrance in Melbourne. HMAS Waterhen, which was involved in this morning's commemorations, is a Royal Australian Navy base located in Waverton on Sydney's lower north shore. Members of the Albert Battery shoot a volley of fire at Anzac Day dawn service on Wednesday in Currumbin, Queensland.